Okay. Right, sir. So actually, I have to start speaking about Terraform. Okay. So before that, let me try to speak about why Terraform is relevant and why it is basically useful or used in the context of DevOps. Okay. Right. So fine. Let us quickly look at a CI/CD pipeline. Let us assume that your organization is building some software for some other organization, or they are building for their own purposes. So yeah, right. This image will make sense, but let me quickly draw one. Okay, so generally you will have developers who are developing some kind of features in some language. It could be Python, Java, .NET, whatever your organization is basically trying to work on, and they publish the code to a version control system, and I am using a term called as Git over here. Once the code is basically published to the Git, then basically we will try to build an unit test. Okay, we try to build the package and then ensure that the quality of the code is good, and then we get a software package out of it. Now I have a package. Okay, at this point I have a software package, which is the output of it. Okay, right. Now your organization will be performing different types of tests around it. So because they can't directly release this package to the customers, you have to test it. So to test it, there are different test environments. So for example, there might be system test environment. In system test environment, what testers generally do is, general testing is of two types. You install the application on your own and do all the activities manually. But the problem with that approach is it is very much time consuming. Okay, and basically doing a system test manually every time is okay, but the problem over here is it depends on human competence. So for that reason, generally what organizations follow is they basically automate the testing. So if your application is a website, they might use some kind of a tool like Selenium or whatever it is to automate. Or if it is an API, they might use something like Postman to automate. So they automate their testing and they ensure that they run the tests on this package, and then you get the test report. So once the test report comes in, some organizations prefer basically complete automation. Some organizations are not there yet. So with the test report, the testing starts in some organization where it is not completely automated. Now, from system testing environment, it doesn't stop there. There will be multiple test environments. So for example, here I'm trying to write performance testing. So how your application behaves, how your application behaves when lots of users come into play, or what are the time that is taken for your website to come up. These kind of tests are basically done. And finally, once all of this is done, then they basically try to go with UAT. UAT stands for user acceptance test, or this is pre-production. I'll try to write it as pre-prod. Once all of these are done, then finally, when there is an approval, it goes for production. For many cases, in many cases, this is not direct. Till this point, we try to do it every day, but production will not be done for every change. Production will be done for changes which are done over the period of 2 weeks, over the period of 1 month. This is what is widely adopted. Okay. सारे कंपनीज में हर एक चेंज को प्रोडक्शन तक नहीं ले जाते. ఓకే, అన్ని కంపెనీలో ప్రతి చేంజ్ ని ప్రొడక్షన్ వరకు తీసుకెళ్తారు. ఓకే, 2 వారాలకు ఒకసారో నెలకు ఒకసారో కంపెనీ రిలీజ్ సైకిల్ ప్రకారం ఉంటుంది. ప్రతిసారి తీసుకెళ్తే ప్రతి చేంజ్ ని తీసుకెళ్తే దాన్ని కంటిన్యూస్ डिप्लॉयमेंट అంటాం. अगर हर एक चेंज को हम प्रोडक्शन के पास ले जा रहे हैं उसको हम लोग कंटिन्यूस डिप्लॉयमेंट बोलते हैं. कंटिन्यूस डिप्लॉयमेंट करने वाले कंपनीज बहुत कम है because that requires a huge amount of automation which most of the organizations are not there yet. So for example, if I have to name a few, Facebook does this, Amazon does it, Google does it. Okay, so for example, I'm basically trying to develop a healthcare application. Even if I have automation, I can't do that because I need an FDA approval. Okay, so there are many cases where direct deployments are not possible. There are some amount of things that are required. So now if you try to see, this is my company's policy. Your company's policies might be 4 different environments or 40 different environments. It depends from policy of your organization. Okay, so now I have a package and I need a test environment. What do I exactly mean by that? So in CI/CD pipelines, we create or expect different environments for testing before release, such as system test environment. Okay, performance test environment, right? Stress testing environment. Okay, and then user acceptance testing environment. This is also called as pre-prod or staging. Okay, now generally the problem over here is, okay, we have to create multiple environments and all of this work was manual. All of this work was manual. Okay, now let me try to let's understand the complication for 3 different architectures. Okay, right. So I am speaking about a first architecture, which is something which I call as a monolith. Okay, e-commerce application. Okay, I am taking an example of e-commerce because that is easy to understand. Most of us are used to the terms of e-commerce. So let us try to look at the architecture of this monolith e-commerce. So monolith means in one server, all of your code is running. That's basically what a monolith is. Monolith can be layered. Okay, so right now we are speaking about e-commerce application which looks like this. It requires 2 servers which have Linux operating system, or you can conveniently put Windows also. It doesn't matter, whatever an operating system is. Now on top of that, here we have a database which is like MySQL, and in this all of your e-commerce data is stored. Okay, right. And then I have an application which I have written in a programming language like Java. I can conveniently replace this with any language, Java, Python, .NET, anything for that matter. And then here I am having the whole e-commerce application. So this is my e-commerce application. Okay, for some of you who are used to it, generally we deploy NOP commerce. NOP commerce falls under this category, right? So where you will have 2 layers. One is application, the other one is database. Okay, generally since I have spoken about e-commerce, I'll be using one more server. Okay, because in e-commerce, okay, or let me do this. Okay. Since I've said e-commerce, e-commerce applications generally have lots of multimedia content. That is something like images, which you see on your products and all that stuff. You can store them in the servers, but majority of the people, what they generally do is they will have some kind of a file share. So this is where all of your images are getting loaded from. Okay. This generally is a different server. Okay. Now, all of these three servers, basically your application is running. So this is your application. This is your database. And this is your file store. Okay. Right. So your application runs, which is used by some of the users from their browsers. So from the browser, they access the application, and e-commerce application will be using databases, or whenever it has to load the images, it might be basically loading from here. So this is the workflow. Right, sir? Any problem with this? మూడు సర్వర్లు ఉన్నాయి. ఒక సర్వర్లో ఇమేజెస్ ఉంటాయి, ఇంకో సర్వర్లో డేటా ఉంటుంది, ఇంకో సర్వర్లో అప్లికేషన్. Okay, right. So this is all fine. This is the basic architecture of it, and then all the challenges start up. So let us assume that if the number of customers are 5,000, I just require one server doing the job. If the number of servers are 50,000, one server will not be able to do the job. I might need multiple servers. As number of users increase, my need for this application servers, I might multiply. So this might happen. Okay. So when this happens, you will have load balancer. I am not getting into all of those complexities. I am basically speaking about this architecture. Okay. Right, sir. So this is our first scenario. Okay. Right, sir. Now, what is it I have said? I needed 3 or 4 environments. Okay. Right. Now, in addition to that, I have production also. Okay. So whenever developer basically commits the code, I need to ensure that all of this is intact. So now you have a package. Okay, let us assume that we have this Java application ready now. Let us come back to this. I have to build the system testing environment. That means I have to deploy this application somewhere in here. Okay. Sometimes there might be database changes. Sometimes there might be file store changes. Okay. And every day, whenever developer is submitting those changes, I have to do that automatically for all of these environments. Okay, good. And now the same work, whatever I've done for system testing environment, I have to repeat the same work for performance testing. Probably my server sizes might be different. So here I might be using a 4 virtual CPU and a 8 GB RAM. Here I might be taking 4 virtual CPU and a 16 GB RAM. That's fine. Those changes are there. Okay. And then do the same thing over here, and then do the same thing over here. You're repeating yourself too much. This is the first problem. And the next thing is these servers, whatever I have said, okay, servers used are generally virtual machines. Okay. Your organization have many choices. The choices could be your organization might tell that I am not using cloud. I am using VMware. So I run everything on premises. Or they might tell that I'm using AWS. I'm using Azure. I'm using GCP, and the list goes on and on. You can add any cloud into that. Okay, right. So now initially it was all about me raising a ticket and a company is basically trying to create this stuff. Nowadays, we all know that things are moving to cloud. We generally don't want to do this manually. Okay. Yeah, even though it is cloud, I don't want to do it manually. Okay. So what is that we need now? Right? To create infrastructure. What is the infrastructure which we require? We might require some kind of networking. We might require virtual machines. We might require some kind of storage servers because we have images to store. And then we might require some kind of databases. Okay. Right? As shown, okay, we need a tool to generate infra. Okay, whatever that infra is whatever is required for my application to run. Okay, right. So whenever I'm trying to tell about infrastructure, I'm not speaking about how to deploy this application. The application ఎలా install చేయాలి అన్నది నా infrastructure కాదు. ఓకే, సో ఇల్లు అన్నది ఇన్ఫ్రాస్ట్రక్చర్ అనుకుంటే ఇంట్లో సామాన్ల డిప్లాయ్మెంట్. సో ఇఫ్ యూ కన్సిడర్ హోమ్ యాజ్ infra, I am not basically speaking about your interior decoration. I'm speaking about the basic infrastructure to basically consider anything as a home. So I need electricity supply there and I need all of that stuff. So in the same way, whenever I'm speaking about infrastructure in the computing world, I'm speaking about servers which can communicate between them with some operating system inside it. Now you will take all of that and then deploy your application. So I need to create this. Okay, right. So now to create this, we have three choices. The first one is manual creation. What is the easiest part of manual creation? Because you do it once, every day look at the steps and do the same thing. Okay, right? Now I am giving you some kind of a manual and then trying to tell that, okay, first you do this, then you do that. Okay, so one of the things that humans are worst in is repetition because we get bored. మీకు రోజు ఒక 10 రోజుల పాటు ఇలాగే బతకాలంటే ఎంత చిరాకు దొబ్బుద్ది. Exactly the same point. The other problem is humans are not very good in repetition. They make mistakes. Okay, when you make mistakes, again start from beginning. So this is the irritating part. Okay, and then manual creation, one of the biggest problem is time consuming. Okay, for us it is time consuming. If I try to look at from the employee perspective, it is a very boring job doing the same thing again and again. Yeah, right. Then the next stuff is scripting. All the cloud tools and all of that stuff, they generally have CLIs. Okay, so using those CLIs, I can automate the creation of it, which is good. Okay, but what is the problem again? Scripting is, the problem with scripting is that is very procedural in nature, but that is fine. But the way you write the script and I write the script might slightly differ depending on how many, what is the level of experience which I have. Okay, right. So now here, let me try to speak about one important thing which you might have already experienced. So New Year, I got a message from HDFC Bank. Okay, I'm quite sure you might also have got a New Year message from your bank wherever you have an account. Yeah, bank's manager has written it, right? సొంత చేతులతో రాత్రి టీ తాగి టీయో మందో ఆయనకి ఏది కన్వీనియంట్ అవుతే అది, రైట్? ఫైన్, రాశాడా? So how do you expect that bank manager has sent a message to all of the customers, or HDFC Bank's Indian head or South Indian head? అతని సంతకం ఉంటుందిగా. So do you expect him to write it? So what is that then? What is that? What has happened on that day? Is it a handwritten message? No. Then what is it? I'll call it as a template. Okay, because it is the same message that is sent to all the customers with some dynamic parts. Hello, dynamic part is your name. Rest of the message remains same. మీకు అంతగా నేను చెప్పింది అమ్మబుద్ధి అవుతే ఇంకో బ్యాంక్ అకౌంట్ ఎవరికైతే ఉందో అతని మెసేజ్ మీ మెసేజ్ పక్క పెట్టుకుని చూడండి, పేర్లు మారి ఉంటాయి, మిగతా మెసేజ్ అంతా సేమ్ ఉంటుంది. సో జనరలీ you would basically get a message which looks like hello, whatever your dynamic part is, name. Okay, whatever is in curly braces is dynamic, sir. Okay, so something like wishing you a very happy new year, something like this. Okay, from sometimes this might change whether you are in South India or Central India or East India or whatever it is. From some signature here. Okay, and then a designation over here. Do you agree with me on this? Yeah, this is what happens when you book ticket also. I book a ticket, I get an SMS. No one is handwriting that message. This is a template. Okay, right. Now the basic idea over here is, okay, declarative creation using templates. Because why am I calling it as a template? Whether you create one environment or second environment or third environment, my architecture actually is stable. It remains the same. Yeah, there are some variables. Variables could be how many servers. Variables could be what is the size of the server. Variables could be probably what is an operating system version which you want. But my architecture as such remains the same, right? Okay. So now, what do I mean by declarative? And why am I calling this as procedural? We will be coming to this discussion multiple times during this course. We speak about declarative versus procedural when we speak Ansible. We speak about declarative versus procedural when we speak about Terraform. Even in Kubernetes, we speak about something called as imperative and declarative. So the basic idea of declarative in the world which we live in is, okay, let us just try to look at this scenario. Come on. ఇంట్లో గ్యాస్ బండ్ తెచ్చి పెట్టేమన్నాడు, దీనికి ఏసీ గ్యాస్ అయితే మాట్లాడితే పోతుందేమో, దీపం పథకం కింద. రైట్, ఓకే. So let me not speak about infra. Let us assume that you are a manager. Okay, right, you are a software manager and in your team there are 2 employees. One of this person is fresher and the second one is basically experienced person who has worked in the areas which your organization is working right now. Okay, and as a manager you are supposed to assign a work for a fresher and also for an experienced person. Okay, so when you are assigning a work for an experienced person, my manager will basically tell me what I want. Antena? So if you are assigning a work to an experienced person, your basic context will be, you will be basically trying to tell that what is that you want, because your expectation is this person knows how to do it. But when you assign a work to a fresher, you need to tell how to do it and also probably what. Do you agree with me on this, sir? Okay, now infra creation, whenever I go with procedural language, I need to basically try to write a script on how to do the stuff. When I basically use a declarative language, My focus will be on what do I want. So here the focus will be more on sequence. Here the focus will be more on something which is called as desired state. Desired state is the state which you want. Am I clear on this? అంటే డిక్లరేటివ్ లాంగ్వేజ్ తో మాట్లాడుతున్నప్పుడు మీకు ఏం కావాలో చెప్తారు, ప్రొసీజరల్ లాంగ్వేజ్ తో పని చేసుకున్నప్పుడు ఎలా చేయాలో చెప్పాలి. डिक्लेरेटिव लैंग्वेज में जब भी आप काम कर रहे हो आपको ये बताना होगा आपको क्या चाहिए. जब आप प्रोसीजरल लैंग्वेज में यूज कर रहे हो तो आपको ये बताना होगा कि उसको कैसे करते हैं. Am I clear on this, sir? So in both the cases you should know how to do it manually, but your presentation will be completely different. Okay, right? So are we clear on this? Okay, I'll give you a small demonstration of this, of what is the difference. Okay. Okay. Right, sir. Let me quickly try to show you what you are going to do. Don't worry about syntaxes. Don't worry about what I am doing over here, because this is what you are going to learn. Okay. So I am logging in into AWS. Okay. I know that most of you might not have even logged in and this is your first time, but that's okay. Let us try to look at an activity. So for some reason, I need a network in AWS. What is it I need? I need a network. So manual way of creating a network is open a service called as VPC. Okay. I'm not sure why I have two VPCs. Oh, that is the okay. So let me try to click on create VPC. And while I'm creating VPC, I need to tell that some name, right? I'll call it as manual. So I'm basically discussing all the three approaches over it. Okay. So in manual, I'm basically trying to give 10.10.0.0/16. Don't worry about what these values are. We'll discuss when the time. I click on create VPC and the VPC got created. Then I'll be trying to create something called as subnet, because in the cloud, all the networking happens at a subnet level, not at a network level. So this is a manual VPC, and let me try to create only one subnet. Okay. So this is something which I call as primary. Okay. 10.10.0.0/24. Okay. Click on create subnet. So what is it I've done? I've created one VPC and one subnet. This was my manual approach. Okay. Now let me basically try to show you the what do you call procedural scripting kind of an approach. So in scripting kind of an approach, what I'll try to do is let me do one thing. Notes or I'll do this. CD C drive temp make dir or okay. So let me open Visual Studio Code and then let me basically try to write something called as create vpc.sh. sh is shell file which is used for Linux scripting. Okay, again, you need not know all of these syntaxes. I'm just trying to tell you the approach. Okay, so here you should be writing something like this: bin/bash, something like, okay, what should I do? Okay, AWS EC2 create VPC. I don't remember the command line. Okay, there is some manual AWS CIDR block. Yeah. So hyphen CADR block. Let me try to give 10.11.0.0/16. Okay. And what is the next thing which I need to give? I need to give tag specifications. ఇప్పుడు ఇంత సావు నేను సావలేనుగా ఇక్కడ కాపీ చేద్దాం ఆగండి. Okay. So name, and then let me try to tell scripting. Okay. And then unfortunately the life doesn't stop here. I have to do cryptic stuff. Okay. So now I need to write hyphen query. Okay. VPC dot VPCID hyphen output text. Don't worry about what it is. Okay. Right. And then I need to create a subnet. Create a VPC. Right. So AWS EC2. If I am not, it is create one line. That's it. Fine. Create subnet, and then subnet underscore ID is equals to $. If you try to see in this, what is the approach which I am trying to take? I am trying to tell how to do this stuff. Okay. And then I am trying to build some reusable script around it. Okay. This is a scripting approach. Now let us see whether this works or not. So cd/c/temp. Okay. Create tag specifications lo edo problem on that tag specifications. One minute, sir. One tag will be tag okay. I'll remove the tags because there is some issue with that. Come on, man. You have to put all of that in quotes. That is an issue actually, but fine. It's okay. Right. So is it getting a VPC ID? Yes. So now let me go to AWS, go to VPCs, refresh it. Here I'll be trying to see it. What is the VPC ID which ends with 890E? Is that the same thing which I got here? Yes. So was I able to create it scripting using a scripting approach? But the problem with this is making changes in that is not that convenient. Making changes in that is not that convenient. Okay. Right. Now over here, let me try to speak about template. Okay. And let me open Visual Studio Code over here. Okay. So again, this might not look that simple immediately, but that's okay. But let me just try to show you what I'm trying to do over here. Okay. Ignore this providers.tf for some time. Okay. So right. So here I'm trying to tell that I want and VPC. Okay. And the name which I'll be basically calling it is network. In this VPC, the CADR block which I want to give is 10.12.0.0/16. Okay. And the tags which I want to give is name is equals to, I'll call it as declarator. Is this very difficult to write? Here you are not telling how to create it. Here you are only trying to tell what do you want. I need a VPC. These are my details. You are not trying to that AWS EC2 create VPC, pass all of those. No, right? Fine. Now you want a subnet. You would be trying to tell that AWS underscore subnet. Again, I'll call it as primary subnet. And okay, fine then. So here also you are trying to tell that this subnet should be part of VPC. This is its CIDR range and these are its tags. ఈ స్పెసిఫికేషన్ ఎక్కడన్నా ఎలా చేయాలని ఉందా, ఏం కావాలని ఉందా? ये सारे स्पेसिफिकेशन में कैसे बनाना है या क्या चाहिए है? अगर आप इसको देख रहे हो, इसमें कहीं भी नहीं है कि किसको कैसे बनाना है, कौन से किस चीज के बाद किस चीज रन करना है. So in all of this approach, what we are trying to express is, you are trying to express what you want. But over here, it has very much sequential, where you try to tell that, okay, I execute this command, which is called as create VPC and all that stuff. Here, you know, you're not doing that. You're basically trying to tell what you want. Three things is a difference. Understood? The first one is manual approach, where you go into the UI and then click somewhere on the buttons and then try to create the infrastructure. Second one, there is nothing wrong with that approach, but the problem is it is difficult to change. And the third one is where you are not worried about how to do the things, you are just basically simply trying to tell that do this activity. Okay, so this third approach is something which is declarative. Okay, and for doing this declarative, there are lots of tools. Terraform is not the only option. Terraform is probably the better option. Okay, but not the only option. Three different styles. Did we understood that? Yes. What is the first one? Manual. Problem with that is time consuming. Second one, scripting. Scripting has a huge learning curve. That is the problem with scripting. And scripting is generally procedural in nature. You have to be very specific about set of steps which you need to perform and in which order, what should be the syntax of it and all that stuff. The third one is declarative. Here you are not worried about how to create it. You are only specifying what you wanted. Here you are trying to specify your CIDR range, and then here you are trying to tell this, but you have never said go to the AWS, click somewhere, do that activity. No, nothing. Okay, am I clear on this? Yes. Okay, now since anyway we have gone this far, let me try to execute this. Let us try to see all the three in action. Again, don't worry about commands, you will be learning all of that. Yeah, just understand the style from a 10,000 feet overview. Now let us come back to CI/CD pipelines. In the context of CI/CD pipelines, what do you think is a better way? You have a pipeline, and after that you tell someone to create manually. Is that better? Or you try to write a different script for a system testing environment and different script for per environment having different steps is better, or using a declarative stuff is better? That's the whole idea. That is why Terraform is extremely relevant. Okay, no matter how complex your environment is, we generally go with a declarative way of infra creation. We will discuss about the options that are basically present. Okay, right, it has done its job. Okay, right. Now my next pipeline comes, and then let me try to do this stuff. If I try to re-execute the script when the network is already present, what do you think will happen? We never know. It depends on what your command does. But I go over here and again execute the same command. Let us try to see what happens. What is it trying to tell? Whatever you have asked for is already present. There is no need for you to recreate it. This doesn't happen manually. This doesn't happen in scripting also. Because in scripting, if you want this to be happening, you have to write script for that. If the VPC is already present, don't create it. If the subnet is already present, don't create it. Here you need not do anything. We have not given all of this intelligence. All we said is we have declared what do we want. And I am executing it for the second time. It is trying to tell that what you want is already present. So the result of the script, whether you execute one time or n number of times, is always the same. So let us assume that I go over here, by mistake I delete this. Yavro delete this. Okay. And then I go and execute this command. So what it does is, okay, it identifies that whatever you want is not present. So it starts creating it. Now you go and refresh. Did you got your declarative back? So it is already present. You are executing it again. It tries to tell that whatever you asked for is already present. So I am not going to. So now you tell me which is the better one. Yes. So do you agree that it is relevant? Yeah. Because every time whenever developer submits the code, if the infra is already present, Terraform is not going to harm anything. It tries just simply bails out saying that, okay, whatever you have asked for is already existing. If some parts of it are missing, it will try to create it. So that is the advantage of the third option, which is template. Okay. So, right. Let us basically come over here. So, as we have seen in the demonstrations, templating approach is okay, easy to configure because you are just trying to tell what do you want. Okay, it is repeatable, but what you have not seen is it is reusable. I can use the same script for creating 4 different environments. ఒకే స్క్రిప్ట్ నుండి 4 ఎన్విరాన్మెంట్లు క్రియేట్ చేయొచ్చు. అది నేను ఇప్పుడే చూపిలేను ఎందుకంటే మనకి ఇంకా అంత జ్ఞానం లేదు కాబట్టి. మనం ఆ దశకి వెళ్తానికి మినిమం ఒక 7-8 గంటలు కావాలి. 7-8 గంటలు కాదు, 7-8 రోజులు కావాలి. राइट. सो एक ही स्क्रिप्ट से मैं 4-5 एनवायरनमेंट बना सकता हूँ, लेकिन आज मैं वो नहीं बता रहा हूँ क्योंकि वो ज्यादा ही हो जाए. राइट. उसमें मुझे थोड़े और चीज कॉन्फ़िगर करने पड़ेंगे, लेकिन बट द होल आइडिया इज दिस रन्स ऑन दिस प्रिंसिपल. एंड द मोस्ट इंपॉर्टेंट थिंग इज it is idempotent. The basic idea of idempotent is whether you run the script for one time or n number of times, your result is always the same. Okay. If you remember, I had a VPC, I had a network that got created. I executed the script. It said that network is already present, there is no need for you to create. I deleted the network and then I executed it. It has created the network. The result is always a same thing what you want. If it is already existing, it will not do anything. If it is not existing, it will try to create it. That is a basic idea of it. So these things you don't get in these two options. Am I clear on this, sir? Yeah. Okay. Now, even though I've used the example of that stuff, let us try to see declarative creation using templates. Okay. Okay. Right. So in the case of AWS, we have something called as cloud formation. In the case of Azure, we have something called as ARM templates or bicep. Okay. Then we have Terraform, which runs on almost every virtual. Okay. Nowadays, something interesting has happened with respect to Terraform. Okay, I'm not sure how many of you know this. Terraform is basically belonging to a company which is called as HashiCorp. Okay. Sorry, saying HashiCorp to join IBM. So IBM has purchased this organization for $6.4 billion. Okay, right. So Terraform was an open source product. Now it is a business source product. Okay. So some of the people didn't like this idea. Terraform is basically becoming corporate, and then they are making their source closer. Right now, we don't know the impact of it, but there is one product that has started which is called as Open Tofu. Okay. So Open Tofu is Terraform itself. But it is the fork of Terraform. Ante exact Terraform version తీసుకొని, okay, right. Sorry, saying what are differences? Okay, right. So Terraform 1.6.x and OpenTofu 1.6.x are exactly same. From that code, they have created the exact clone and then they have recreated this. And this OpenTofu is adopted by Linux Foundation. Okay. ప్రస్తుతానికి ఇండస్ట్రీలో దీని మీద పెద్ద యూసేజ్ ఏమి లేదు. వచ్చిన రోజున ప్రస్తుతానికి అయితే మీరు టెరాఫామ్ వాడితే ఓపెన్ టోఫు కూడా వాడేసుకోవచ్చు. ఓకే, ఇఫ్ యూ నో టెరాఫామ్ యూ కెన్ యూజ్ ఓపెన్ టోఫు ఆల్సో, because tomorrow if IBM basically imposes a licensing cost on Terraform, then probably we might see people moving to OpenTofu. But as of now, there is no difference. Am I clear on this, sir? Okay. So there is one more product which is called as Pulumi. Okay. Right. The basic idea of Pulumi started trying to tell that you can create infra as a code. What the declarative templating language is something which is called as infrastructure as a code. What they said is you can use this in any programming language. No need for you to write in this strangely looking stuff. If you know Python, write it in Python. If you know Java, write it in Java. That is what Pulumi has started doing. Okay. Even Terraform has done that. They have something called as CDK, but the reality is people prefer this. Okay. That is very rare usage. The major usage is around this. Am I clear on this, sir? Okay. But as I said, these are the major options for you. Okay. Google used to have something called as deployment manager. Okay. But later on, what they said is no deployment manager. We are going to use Terraform itself. Okay. So now best practices of Terraform. Okay. Google Terraform style. Many companies who are using even other clouds, they basically prefer this guide on how to write Terraform template. This is called as style guide. This is called as style guide. So now, are we clear on this? Yeah. Now, one advantage of Terraform is when I will be using the same tool to work on any cloud. Okay. So I have used the AWS example. I could have conveniently taken Azure example or a GCP example. Terraform works literally on any virtual platform. You can use it for VMware also. Okay. But the problem with these tools is CloudFormation is only for AWS. ARM template is only for Azure. So rather than learning one specific tool, try to learn something which works everywhere. That's a basic one of the reasons why people prefer Terraform. And nowadays, this is the most what do you call very high demand tool. Okay, దీంట్లో 10,000 ఉద్యోగాలు కనబడుతున్నాయి. Yeah. So if you try to see, they are not under only Terraform might not give you a job, but there is almost no DevOps job without Terraform and Kubernetes. Almost. Okay. So that's the reality of Terraform. Okay. Right, sir. Are we clear on this? Yeah. Right. Now, today I've spoken about one architecture, right? Other two architectures I'll show in the subsequent sessions. Okay. So if you want, I can show, but it will be overkill on day one. Let us not do that. Okay. Fine then. So are we clear on this so far? So why should I use Terraform, sir? One is it works anywhere. It works on literally on any cloud platform, on any virtual platform. Second thing is, while I'm using Terraform, I'll never try to tell how to do the things. I'll just tell what has to be done. So this is like assigning a work to a experienced person by a manager. He basically tries to tell what is an activity, not how to do that activity. Okay, right. Okay, good. So 1 minute. Let me delete all the things which I've created. Oh, I have to delete one by one, is it? I'll not do that. I would rather do this. Okay. Oh boy. Subnet lo any delete cheyadu. Manual. I'll delete it like this. But with Terraform, I have convenience. All I have to do is Terraform. Not only creation, deletion is also easy. Okay, all you have to do is just try to tell destroy. It will delete whatever it has created. Okay, good, sir. Fine then. So now Terraform. Okay. Let me not go with here. Let me basically go with docs because this is what I want you to be good with. Refer here for Terraform docs. Okay. Till last batch, if someone used to ask me what is a Terraform, I used to basically try to tell that Terraform is an open source infrastructure as a code tool. But unfortunately, right now I am in a dilemma whether to write open source or not. Okay, because IBM has acquired it. Fine, but I'll be trying to write that this is infra as a code tool for declaratively creating infrastructure in almost all virtual platforms. Okay, right. So this could be VMware, Hyper-V, okay, or KVM, right, and cloud providers. So whether the cloud provider is AWS, whether it is Azure, okay, whether it is GCP, Oracle Cloud, the list goes on and on. Okay, right. So now let us understand the basic terms of Terraform. Okay, I'll just try to give you a high level overview. This is something which we'll be discussing for the next 3 days. Okay, so core components of Terraform. Okay, in Terraform, whenever I want to use a term input, okay, input అన్న పదం input అంటే అందరూ తెలుసు కదా. So for example, in this case, my input was, I said that for CADR block, the input was 10.12.0.0/16. So these are the things which I am calling as inputs. Okay, so arguments. So arguments are what? Inputs. Attributes. Attributes are outputs. Okay, and then there is something called as providers. Provider is where to create infrastructure. Okay, and then resource, what infra needs to be created. Whenever we are working with Terraform, there are four important. There are others also, but I am speaking only about four. The first one is attribute or argument. Argument is an input and attribute is an output. Provider is where do you want to create a infrastructure, and resource is what infra are you trying to create. Now, without any ado, let me try to go over here, and then let me try to tell that what was my provider here? AWS. Probably if I want to work with Azure, I might be writing something like provider Azure RM. Okay, features. And then if I want to work with GCP provider, I think it is Google Cloud. నాకు పేరు గుర్తులేదు. ఓకే, దరిద్రం కూడా చూసేద్దాం ఆగండి. ప్రొవైడర్స్ Terraform, okay, I don't remember the name of it. What was it? Google. Okay, provider Google. In the same way, I can try to write provider something like Oracle Cloud. Okay, right. So let me not go with all of them. Let me basically click on this providers page. And are you seeing there are different providers over here? AWS, Azure, GCP, Kubernetes, Ali Cloud, Oracle Cloud. You go down the line, there are loads of things available. Okay, yeah, our focus will be on these two. Yeah, but it doesn't mean that it has to be only these two. And then where is yeah, VMware. If your company is using VMware, you can start creating infra in VMware using Terraform. Okay, right. So am I clear on this, sir? So provider is where you can create infrastructure, and resource is what infrastructure you want to create. And let me again come back to here. I said that I want two infra elements. First one was VPC, the second one was subnet. Am I clear on this, sir? Yes. So do we understand these four things now? Argument and attribute, input and output. Argument is an input and attribute is an output. Provider, where to create infrastructure. Resource, what infrastructure are you speaking about? That's it. Okay, good, sir. So fine then. So for today, let us stop it at that. And 1 minute, sir. I'll just quickly upload the notes. What is today? 7th, right? Okay, sir. Right. So if you go to directdevops.blog, you should be seeing a classroom notes of whatever I've written. Yeah. And this would be your document. Right, sir? Yeah. Any declarative automation tool for database administration. First of all, database administration, if you are using something like cloud, most of them are automated, sir. Apart from performance tuning, you don't need the stuff, right? So yeah, if you are trying to tell that how can I take a backup, while creating the infrastructure in Terraform, you can configure backup if you are using cloud providers, because cloud supports those activities. Only activity which you still need to do is performance tuning. Yeah, all right. Fine, sir. There is one activity to some of you people I have given during last week. Okay, right. This has nothing to do with the people who have joined today, right? So for the previous stuff, I have given an activity on Python to increase the code coverage. Yes. So are you working on that? Yes. Because this weekend, I think we have a workshop. Okay. For the people who have joined now, don't worry about it. You will also have participate in Python program when the time comes. Okay. Right. Okay, sir. So I'll stop it at that. And we'll meet again in next 10 minutes for the people who are here for cloud also. Otherwise, we'll meet tomorrow. But tomorrow, what I'll try to do is, in addition to our classes, we'll have an